there's a lot of movement, a lot of big names flipping, switching, signing today in the world of college football. And the Oregon Ducks have had themselves a day on the recruiting trail. They currently have, according to Nemec, the number one recruiting class in the country as it pertains to rating per commit right now. They do not have the largest recruiting class in the country. They're right around 21 commits. So there's several other schools out there that have more commits, which gives you a higher points and all that stuff. But at 93.77 per recruit, that's their average. It is the highest in the country right now. Dan Lanning and crew have been active on the recruiting trail, and it had a couple of big flips involved in it, and one of them including a quarterback who is the top 10 quarterback in the country, number one recruit out of the state of Hawaii. And now this quarterback room is getting a little bit deeper because you get the kid from Hawaii, which I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name because I have not heard it yet. Well, I've heard Nemec say it.
That's a pro move right there.
Well, it's...
Go for it. Sound the vowels.
Sagapolutele.
Jaron Sagapolutele, well, whatever,
Sagapolutele. That's a drop from Nemec.
That's a great
Jaron
one.
Sagapolutele, who
it's
is
a lot of vowels.
from Hawaii, and he was a Cal commit. He flips today. He told Nemec he didn't even tell Oregon he was flipping until he announced where he was going.
That's fun.
So you've got, Sagapolutele. You have Akili Smith Jr., who has been committed for a very long time to this Oregon class. And then they got Mark Weipert, who is the Wilsonville High School quarterback who signed and committed today. He was a commit to Oregon State baseball as a catcher. And
have they done well at that position?
At catcher,
Yeah.
Oregon State? Yeah, they have. But now he is signed with Oregon after an 8-touchdown performance in the 5A state championship game for the Wilsonville Wildcats. He signed with the Oregon Ducks today. So it's been a busy day. That doesn't even include the flip of the number 2 corner in the country, Nate Offord, who was committed to Oregon, or not Oregon State, the other OSU, Ohio State. They flip him. You hold on to DeCorian Moore and Dallas Wilson, the top wide receiver recruits. Now you're looking at Oregon's recruiting class has kind of ticked all the way up, and you're looking at a top 4 class. Some services have them as number 2 in the country. Right now on 24/7, I just refreshed it. They are number 4 nationally overall, but still have the number 1 average per recruit ranking. There's one guy that I am fascinated by, though.
I think I know where you're going with this.
He just came through. His name is Toby Hastrup. He is a 4-star defensive lineman out of Texas.
By way of?
England.
That traditional football recruiting ground.
There, yeah, right? England.
Not that football.
They call it football, yeah.
So The Athletic has a story up, and they wrote this a couple of weeks ago, and I was floored when I was reading it. And it was before he had even taken his visit to Oregon, but he is a 6'4", 235-pound defensive end who runs a 10.7 in the 100-meter dash.
And when you see this kid, you immediately understand why everyone would be interested in him.
So he grew up. He's English, and he came
Jolly
to
old
Texas. Yep, he came to Texas, and he was running track. And as any good football program does, you have at least one coach who's on the track staff just to make sure you don't have any fast kids slip by you. And he had a football coach convince him to come out for football.
Because, again, he's 6'4", 230, and built like Giannis Antetokounmpo.
Yeah. He didn't know anything about football. He literally asked the football coaches, what is a first down? And that's where your starting place is. By the end of his first week, after his first game, he had 12 offers. Again,
6'4", 230, 10,700. And I know kids are different now, Dusty, than when we were in high school, and it's going to
Yeah.
continue to happen. Have you ever seen a kid built like this in high school?
No. Well, you see them more often now, but I've never seen a kid who's never played football before
Like
come
this,
in
yeah.
his very first high school game. He had 4 sacks, and
Just
4 days
pure
later,
unadulterated talent.
4 days later, he had 10 Power 4 offers and 12 overall offers.
If I told you this kid ended up on Bruce Feldman's freaks list, would you be one bit
Not one
surprised?
bit. Not one bit.
Like as a freshman.
Yeah, a guy who's asking what is a first down and then pops as a 4-star recruit. Yeah, you're going to look at the upside on that and you're going to say, all right, what are we going to do with this kid when we get him in a weight room, when we have him on a regiment, when we actually teach him the game of football and he really does start to learn what the game is all about. Now there's a boom and bust factor with it, right? He in his first game, he had 4 sacks. Great start, right? He finished the season with 10, right? In 23 quarterback hits in 10 games. That, by any measure, is a very successful season, right?
Mm-hmm.
No ands, ifs, or buts about it. But you got a guy who may be a bit of a project, but yeah, he's a special one, man.
It looks to be a worthwhile project.
Yeah. So when he was 9, they moved to California, and then they moved to Texas right before COVID. And now you're looking at a kid who went from being a junior Olympian to being an Oregon Duck. He just signed with Oregon. He's a 4-star defensive lineman. Literally never had played football, and here he is now signing with the number 1 team in the country on National Signing Day.
It's we'll talk to Nemec more about him and others, but it is a really interesting. The thing that I really want to talk to Nemec about is now that we're deeper into NIL and how things are going, like have things stabilized or have they gotten more out of control, as we saw with LSU's quarterback defecting to Michigan, and kind of like what these last day defections kind of look like, because there's been a couple of really, really big ones. Oregon stealing the cornerback from Ohio State, USC stealing the defensive lineman from Georgia back again, and Jakeem Stewart. Like, there's been a couple of like top 10 players in the country that came down to the wire.
I'll tell you, the interesting part is how teams are handling NIL now, with the House settlement going to be finalized in April, where you got this delicate balance of, all right, what NIL can be, I don't know, out there for these guys when there's like essentially what they're calling it with the House settlement is a $20.5 million salary cap, right? How is this all going to change, and where are teams going to be putting their money, just somewhere down the road? Ross Dellinger had that article, right before the other sports had their signing day a few weeks ago, about how there were offers being written to guys with the House settlement in mind, with in-house NIL being a part of it. And it's kind of like we were talking to the Wild Wild West with NIL. This is even more Wild Wild West, because you have some schools that are looking in the future and what it may look like, and some are just going, right now we're just going to spend, when that may not be the best, or the most prudent financial way to go about building a roster in the future.